Hey there, and welcome to the Azalea Homestead. My name is Brianne, and welcome back to my kitchen. In today's video, we're going to be making 3 delicious dinners. These dinners are super easy to make. They use homemade ingredients and are favorites for one of my picky eaters here in the house. So in this first recipe, we're going to be making a barbecue chicken pizza. And I'm just starting here by making my dough. So to my KitchenAid, I'm going to add about 2 teaspoons of active dry yeast, a tablespoon of sugar, a cup of warm water, and about a teaspoon of salt. And once that yeast begins to bloom, then we'll add in about 2.5 to 3 cups of flour and about 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, and that's optional if you'd like to add that. We really enjoy it. It adds a lot of flavor to the dough. If you don't have a KitchenAid, you can definitely do this by hand. It might take just a couple extra minutes, but it is definitely doable. And there's our dough. I'm just going to place a clean dish towel over that and allow it to sit for about 30 minutes or so to rise. It's probably ready in about 10 minutes, honestly, but I needed to shred up this cheese anyway, so I let it sit for about 20 to 30 minutes. And I'm just going to use my KitchenAid attachment here. Since I already had the KitchenAid out, it made it really handy to shred this cheese. And I'm going to be using mozzarella cheese. And when I have it on hand, which for some reason I did not have it on this day, I really enjoy adding white cheddar, a sharp white cheddar cheese with the mozzarella. So if you go to our blog for the recipe, that's azaleahomestead.com, you'll see that the recipe calls for about 1.5 cups of mozzarella and 1/2 cup of white cheddar. You can interchange those. You could use both or just use one or the other. I like the mix, but for this video, all I had on hand was mozzarella. So now I am just going to cook up 1 large chicken breast that I've diced into small pieces, and we'll also be adding 4 strips of cooked bacon. And I will slice up a red onion to go with our toppings. So our dough is ready now to be rolled out. And you will see I am not a professional pizza maker. My circles look more like an egg, but that's okay. My family does not care. They're going to eat pizza no matter what it looks like, especially homemade pizza. So you're just going to do your best to try to get some form of a circle to fit on your pan if that's the shape that you're using. And you're going to want to poke holes into the dough. I just use a fork and just kind of tap it along the dough, and then you'll bake that for about 5 to 7 minutes, and then we'll take it out and we'll add our toppings to that. So now we're ready to add our barbecue sauce. This is a homemade barbecue sauce that I canned last year. And sadly, this was our next to last jar. So I'm going to be really particular the next time I make this pizza. It might have to be for a special occasion. But you can find the recipe for the barbecue sauce on our blog website, azaleahomestead.com. Or if you have a favorite store brand barbecue sauce that you enjoy, by all means, use that. And there's our pizza ready for the oven. And with a little YouTube magic, it is quickly ready. And here I have just melted some butter with a little bit of garlic powder. And I'm just going to brush that onto the crust just to give it a little extra garlic flavor. We really enjoy that. And I don't put it back in the oven at this point. I think it's fine just the way it is. And this is what is for dinner. And this next recipe is our teriyaki meatballs. And I'm just going to start with 2 pounds of lean ground beef. I'm using a 85/15 here. You can pretty well mix that however you'd like. If you'd like to do a mixture of beef and lamb or beef and pork, you could really just kind of tailor that to your own preference. And you can see I'm going to season these meatballs with several different ingredients here. Um, the basics I'm using are onion powder, parsley, garlic, some ground ginger, paprika, and then I also have a mushroom powder, and that is something, it's portobello mushrooms that I freeze dried, and then I used my spice grinder and made it into a powder. And that just adds a lot of extra umami flavor that we really enjoy, especially in recipes like this. You can purchase mushroom powder. They even have organic if you're into that on Amazon and health food stores and some maybe big box stores, but I know for sure the health food stores and Amazon. This is also delicious as just a regular meatloaf, a spin on a classic. So if you didn't have time for meatballs or didn't want to go through the effort of doing that, a meatloaf would be great. Burgers would be great. Um, you're not limited to the meatballs. And here's a look at that mushroom powder. And this recipe is perfect for potlucks and holidays and celebrations, parties, things like that, because they could be made in advance. And a lot of times, if I have to bring a dish, it's something that I can make a day or two in advance. We're just busy around here. I work outside the home. My girls are homeschooled, so we're busy. We have a lot of extracurricular activities. So having meals like this is super nice. It makes a great freezer meal as well. If you'd like to make them ahead of time, they are good in the fridge for up to about 3 days, um, maybe five, but I would probably recommend three. And then if you wanted to freeze them, they're good in the freezer for about 2 months. This is a great freezer meal if you have little ones. There's something about meatballs that kids just enjoy eating. I could make the same recipe as a meatloaf, and one of my kids won't eat it, but I could make the same recipe in a meatball and they'll eat it. So sometimes it's just how it's presented. So here we're going to make our sauce, and it's just a little bit of soy sauce and some seasonings and about a tablespoon of cornstarch. And this sauce is super delicious. I do recommend if you're serving this with rice, just plain white rice, I would probably double the sauce. We really enjoyed that. the last time I made it, and I think I've always doubled it, and for whatever reason I didn't this time, probably because I was filming this video. Um, but I would definitely recommend doubling the sauce. And I'm using freeze-dried onion powder, freeze-dried garlic powder, and that mushroom powder that I mentioned before. I have a Harvest Right freeze dryer. If you're interested in that, we have a review over on the blog. I was not paid for that review. I bought my own freeze dryer, but I know I get a lot of questions about it, and there's interest about it, especially if you have interest in food preservation. So if you're interested in that, that's over on the blog, theazaleahomestead.com, and I will link that down below for you. So again, a little YouTube magic for us. I placed these meatballs uncooked into the oven, 375 degrees Fahrenheit. I let them bake for about 20 minutes or so, and then I added that sauce over top, and I put them back in the oven for about 10 or 15 more minutes. And here are those meatballs. That sauce really is the star of the show. It is so delicious. And you can see here, I just served it over plain white rice and topped it with our freeze-dried green onions and a couple of sesame seeds. And that was dinner. Next up, I'm making a 5-cheese and Italian sausage baked penne. And I'm making the full recipe here, and you will see it makes a lot of food. And the reason for that is um, it makes such a great freezer meal. The ingredients are so affordable. And it's basically just another take on lasagna. If you have ever meal prepped or done freezer meals before, lasagna is always probably at the top of my list because it's so easy to make and to reheat, and everybody enjoys it. So for this recipe, you're using 5 cheeses. Like I said, we have Asiago, Parmesan, Provolone, mozzarella, and cottage cheese. And I do typically use penne, but I was out when I was filming this, so I just use a rigatoni. It's pretty versatile. That way you can use a small or medium shell pasta, elbow pasta, or penne rigatoni. You could pretty well use it any sort of pasta you have on hand. So as you can see here, I have that cottage cheese and our other cheeses and our seasonings. That's our onion powder there. And I'm just gonna mix all of that together for our filling. And I typically use a mild Italian sausage. If you like heat, then by all means you can use a hot Italian sausage, or you could just use ground beef, whatever you have on hand. I think the Italian sausage plays beautifully with all of those cheeses. and adds a little bit of spice, lots of flavor in this dish. And I have some Roma tomatoes here that will be in our sauce, and that adds a really nice fresh component along with our onions and green bell peppers. And here's that Italian sausage. We're just going to cook that through. And I had some cooked up from another recipe, so I'm just adding to that. So this should be about 2 pounds of mild Italian sausage. That previous sausage, that cooked sausage, was from another meal prep video for breakfast. If you'd like to catch that, I will link that down below. And you can find all of our breakfast recipes over on the blog. And here I'm adding our freeze-dried basil, Italian oregano, and parsley, as well as a little bit of onion powder, garlic powder, salt, and pepper. And there are those fresh tomatoes. In our stock pot, I have our cooked rigatoni or penne, whichever you might be using, and I'm just mixing our cheese mixture with the noodles, and then we'll combine everything with our sauce. The baking dish that I'm using is a 10 by 15. If you don't have a baking dish that big, probably 2 9 by 13 should get the job done for you. And I'm just going to top that pasta with our remaining cheese. We'll put that back into the oven for about 5 to 10 minutes so that it can get nice and golden on top. And there is our 5 cheese and Italian sausage penne. If you enjoy recipes like this, we do ask that you like and subscribe to our channel and visit us over on the blog. That is a great way to help our small family business in a big way. Until then,